to take part in the Wildlife Week celebrations 2023 put forward by Kerala Law Academy in association with KLA Forestry Club and IQSC KLA to promote the conservation and protection of animal life. We are delighted to have each one of you joining us on this auspicious occasion. Wildlife Week is observed to raise awareness about the role of wildlife in maintaining ecological balance. Any long-term damage to wildlife can threaten the entire ecosystem. Therefore, it is crucial to protect wildlife systematically and wholeheartedly. There is a symbiotic relationship between forests, forest-dwelling animals, ecosystem services, and humans. Kerala Law Academy aims to make its fraternity more aware of the conservation and protection of wildlife through various activities during this week. Now, I would like to move on to the formal welcome address. Firstly, I would like to welcome our most honorable guest of the day, Dr. Arun Sekaria, Sir, Chief Forest Veterinary Officer, Department of Forests and Wildlife, Government of Kerala. Sir started his career as veterinary surgeon, Department of Animal Husbandry, Government of Kerala. His notable grants include the United States Fish and Wildlife Assistance Award 2010-11. He has acquired awards and accomplishments ranging from Good Service Entry 2013 to the Best Veterinarian Award 2020. Sir is also known for his research on wildlife and its conservation. He has also made numerous international publications as well. To his credit, Dr. Arun Sekaria has the national record of capturing and translocating 36 tigers, 63 elephants, and around 100 leopards that had posed a threat to human life and livelihoods across South India. He has tranquilized and managed several animals which either needed medical care or were involved in man-animal conflict, latest being the Arikomban operation. I'm deeply privileged to welcome you, sir, to this session. Welcome, sir. Now we have the esteemed presence of Advocate Nagaraj Narayan, sir, Director, Kerala Academy Law College, and member, Bar Council of Kerala. It is indeed my pleasure to invite Advocate Nagaraj Narayan, sir, to this function. Hearty welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would also like to welcome Professor K. Anil Kumar, sir, Director, Administration, Students and Faculty Affairs, Kerala Law Academy, who is a constant source of support and motivation to all of us. I heartily welcome Professor Anil Kumar, sir, to this function. Welcome, sir. I also welcome Professor K. Harindran, sir, Principal, Kerala Law Academy, who is a source of inspiration to all the academic activities in this college. Hearty welcome, sir. Next, we have Professor G. Anil Kumar, sir, Vice Principal, Kerala Law Academy. I extend a hearty welcome to you, sir. I also take this opportunity to welcome Professor Dr. L. Ajita Nair, ma'am, Senior Faculty, KLA. Hearty welcome, ma'am. Next, I would like to welcome Advocate Kasturi Nagaraj, ma'am, Assistant Professor, Kerala Law Academy, and Sri N.K. Shashidharan, sir, Assistant Professor, Kerala Law Academy, the faculty members of our organizing committee to this event. Hearty welcome to you, ma'am and sir. I also take this opportunity to welcome Sri M. Shakti Prabha, sir, Assistant Professor, Kerala Law Academy Law College. Sir will also be rendering the vote of thanks to this session. I extend a hearty welcome to you, sir. In addition to our esteemed speakers and faculty members, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our faculty conveners, teaching and non-teaching staff, students, participants, and each one of you present here. Your continuous efforts play a very important role in making this event a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a warm welcome. I take this opportunity to welcome you two into the session.
Thank you, Bhavani.
I take this moment as my honor to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Arun Zakriasa, Chief Forest Veterinary Officer, Department of Forest and Wildlife, Government of Kerala. It is my honor to invite Dr. Arun Zakriasa to speak on the topic Human-Wildlife Conflict in an Ecological Perspective. Sir, please. Sir, you're on mute.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
All right. Hope you can see my slide. Can you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So first of all, thank you very much for having me in this occasion. And thanks a lot for Kerala Law Academy Trivandrum. And thanks a lot for Adira Chandran, Srimati Adira Chandran, Assistant Professor, for good words. And also Nagaraj sir, and also Shashidharan sir, IFS. So, so the invitation is really great for me actually to sharing our the concepts and whatever things derived during my 20 years of my career in the forest department. We mitigate a lot of issues. And currently, the human-wildlife conflict is a major conservation theme. A problem exists. Okay, previously we had a lot of problems with habitat management and species conservation issues. But now this became a huge reality in the last decade. And a lot of focus is going on towards that, both in the conservation and the welfare of the human beings, both sides. Okay, the conservation of the wildlife, its habitat, and also on the welfare of the human beings. So this seems to be one of the major issues that we are facing and going to face also in the next, I would say 40, 50 years. So, so this is an—
Sorry for the interruption, sir. You're not exactly very audible. Could you speak a bit louder?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Thank you,
Is
sir.
it okay? Right now? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Am I
It's
audible?
okay. Yes, you're audible,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Sorry. My throat is not good. And again, I'm living in a hotel too far. So maybe that. Anyway. Okay. So this is my topic, human-wildlife conflict and ecological perspective. So I will start with this caricature. It's an African caricature. See, this is almost the same thing portrayed as human-wildlife conflict by managers, policymakers, press, and public. So see the situation, a farmer who is chasing his chasing the elephants, which were raiding his orchard, and monkeys eating his corn, and see the leopard and aiming towards his sheep, and monkeys raiding his house. So just like this is a portrait of a human wildlife conflict. So the humans are surrounded by the wildlife and he's fighting against it. So this is the whole concept that has been propagated, and that is being propagated for a long time and still now. So, but in fact, this is not the real picture. This is something, a perception of the public. But human-wildlife conflict is much more complicated. Of course, it's intriguing for us, but it's much more complicated. It's not alone a matter of human-wildlife, but it has got different facets like socio-economic importance, socio-political scenarios involved, and conservation things are involved. There are lots of facets for the human-wildlife conflict. So viewing in this kind of perspective is not a great thing. So I'm focusing on this. First, I will talk about the philosophy of human-wildlife conflict. Then we talk about the issues of human-wildlife conflict. Then we talk about what are the methods we are using to mitigate and what the future that I'm planning to. So to begin with, this most of the people have the perception that it started almost for 20 years. It's highlighted last 20 years, but human-wildlife conflict is actually it's a part of human evolution. Okay, so this is a question: who killed the Tom child? Tongue-child is the first Australopithecus and species fossil, and Australopithecus is actually the link between hominid and hominin. Okay, that means apes, previous human apes group to humans. It's discovered by Raymond Dart in South Africa, long back in 1942, I think. Yeah. Okay. Then the last year, a couple of years back, they analyzed the skull of it's named Tongue-child because it's discovered in a village called Tong. So they analyzed the skull of the Tongue-child discovered by the Raymond Dart, and they found that it was killed by a large raptor. Okay, so imagine this is a link to a hominin. The first hominin, I would say, was a prey. Okay, so all our history started as a prey, as not as a predator. But as time goes on, okay, so human developed, they started using fire, and they discovered equipments, and they started becoming a predator. You can see the top photograph, which there are so many caves in Germany and also in Canada, large fish caves and all. You can see thousands of elephant skeletons, especially mammoth skeletons. In fact, the last mammoth was extinct, woolly mammoth was extinct 4,000 years back, just 4,000 years back. So as part of human evolution, in fact, I would say elephants left Africa 80,000 years back only towards Asia. Okay, almost the same time humans migrated. I would say elephant meat might have been the real source of protein for the human being evolution for a long time. Okay, then almost 15,000 years back, we started agriculture. We discovered fire. We started agriculture, organized agriculture, that it intensified the human-wildlife conflict. So nutshell is that I would say human-wildlife conflict is a not new thing. It's embedded along with the human evolution, and it is progressing. Okay, so as people saying it's a contemporary issue, it's not a contemporary issue, it's an evolutionary issue. So to look into that perspective, human-wildlife conflict is not a new thing. Okay, again, Environment Policy of India, and Article 48 says, especially you law students, you know it very well. The state has an endeavor to protect and improve the environment and safeguard the forests and the wildlife of the country. The state has a duty to do that. And Article 51 says the duty of every citizen to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wild, and have compassion to living creatures. So these are our duties of the state, and also each the citizen to protect our wildlife. So that really changing the perspective actually. So wildlife has to be protected. So it needs to be protected. So in that scenario, human wildlife has to be viewed. Okay. Coming to definition of the human-wildlife conflict, it's a WWF definition in 2005. It's a vague definition, I would say. It says an interaction between humans and wildlife that result in negative impact on human, social, economic, or cultural life, on the conservation of wildlife populations or the environment. It says, well, it simply says, it's not a one-way. It's a both way. It's a trade-off. It's not a trade-off. It's the negative impacts inflicted by the interaction of the human and the wildlife. So it's both parties are involved. That's what I've said. It should be viewed like that. So looking to current scenario, especially in Kerala, I just want to point it out. This is not a complete list. I just want to point it out. So what are the causes of the conflict, human-wildlife conflict? Okay, species level. So you can find the major thing is the human-wildlife conflict, and which is highlighted as the biggest issue. Of course, it's highlighted as the biggest issue. More than 500 people are killed every year, and so many being injured. And I will talk about that. Then you have herbivores issues, deers, goats coming into a human field and destroying the crops, and the problem with the wild pigs, and the problem with the primates, just like monkeys, huge issues actually. The problem with the carnivores, leopards, tigers, straying into human settlements, wild dogs chasing your goats and sheep. And there are lots of miscellaneous things as well, bear. And there are lots of, even peafowl is the biggest issue. And there are new issues. The last week, there was the gathering of people, almost 200 people. They were attacked by otters, in rivers. So this is not a complete list, but I just want to highlight these are the real problems. So when you look into the impact of human-wildlife conflict, as we discussed, it's negative impact of both human and also to the wildlife. Look into the human impact. The first thing, the life of human beings. As I told you, so many humans being killed. Okay, this year itself, so many people were killed by elephants across the country. The number is really staggering. Okay, his property is damaged, his house is being destroyed, and again, his property is just like his livelihood. Cattle were killed by tigers. His agriculture being raided by elephants and other animals. So these are the total negative impact inflicted onto the human beings. So coming to then look into the wildlife perspective. So there is huge poaching is going on, which is again is a conflict. Okay, ivory poaching. So by God grace, actually, I would say the last 10 years, it's came down drastically because of the vigilant action by the forest department. And poaching is not a big issue. At the same time, there are other issues also because of the development. There are electrocutions happening, and it's also a conflict because we develop so many, for part of our development, we are destroying the ecosystem, which gives a negative impact to the wildlife. So the left, you can see a herd being killed by a natural reasons, that is lightning. Okay, the right, as a part of development, they put a high tension lines. The herd were killed by electrocution, by accidentally touching on it of a hanging line, right? So again, electrocution it's not an accident alone. Nowadays, it's a huge issue. Today also, you can see one lady was killed by electrocution by somebody put an electric line near to a house for catching pigs. I will show you that. So many elephants being killed for part of bushmeat. They just pull an electric line, connect to the AC line for bushmeat. They don't need to shoot an animal. Okay, so accidentally an animal will step onto it and they were killed. For example, this year, it's happened in a couple of years back. See this it's happened in 15 feet apart, 3 species, a sambar deer, spotted deer, and a wild boar. These all are accidents of bushmeat. So this is also happening in the wild and also near to the wild habitat. So this is a real negative impact. Sometimes people do poisoning elephants to mitigate human-wildlife conflicts. When the elephants raid to the field, they try to give poison things. So many cases happening. And again, this one case of tiger. So usually tiger comes out to human settlement. They prey on the livestock. So they just put some poison things, for example, carbamates into the carcass. The habit of tiger. They will come back and eat the carcass again, and they'll be killed. And this is really, these incidents are really increasing. And sometimes they use arrows, especially to mitigate conflict. So these arrows, the arrow hit the animal, after breaking the stem, it goes into deep, and animals will have a very painful death. Sometimes they use country bombs to mitigate human-wildlife conflict. Okay, they use country bombs hidden in jackfruit or maybe in pineapple and thrown to the field, and so that these conflicting animals come and pick it up and can blast that whole mouth. This is really increasing in so many parts of Kerala. And again, look into the road kills. Okay, there are thousands of animals killed in every day, from majestic gore to a beautiful leopard cat, to deer, and including elephants and also tigers and leopards. So these are also a negative impact by the development of humans, because these routes are going through the natural habitat of the wildlife and for the development of the human being. So naturally, this is also a negative impact and a part of human-wildlife conflict. And and these are things happening in tigers. Actually, they put snares for capturing wild boar. Sometimes they accidentally step into it, and they have a very, very painful death. Lower photo, you can see that when I did the postmortem, I couldn't find the feet, or the left feet and the tail of the tiger because of the agony it ate its body itself. Very painful death. And also the disease also, and which is really forgotten by people. So on the left top, you can see the first case of tuberculosis, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, that is MTB. That's a human pathogen in elephant, wild elephant. It's natural. MTB can transmit to captive elephants because the mahouts, if the mahouts is having tuberculosis, there is a chance of spillover to the host. But this is the first report of wild elephant. Tuberculosis, they transmit through aerosols as a small particle, 10 micron size particle droplets when one coughs and inhaled by the other, other people. But here, a wild animal is picking up. As I told, MTB is a human pathogen. It's not a wild pathogen. It's evolved into human being. So we reported so far 8 cases of it. This shows really the increased contact, the conflict level between, that's the one, a pathogen which really need to be, sprayed or aerosol communication is really picking up by the wild elephants, which there is the chance of interaction with a human is very less. Okay, so that is the level of conflict especially in Kerala scenario. And other thing, the disease, right, is the foot and mouth disease. Foot and mouth disease is a domestic animal disease, not a wild disease. So there is a spillover from domestic animal to wild due to grazing, due to other contact and killing those animals. So these are again the negative interactions by the human. And looking the other side down, you can see, the Nipah incidents in Kerala, like there are Ebola, influenza, even the AIDS, HIV, and SARS outbreak. All of the sources are from wildlife. So wildlife acts as a reservoir because most of them are co-evolved along with them, and they jumped into human beings. Okay, this is also a negative interaction from wildlife to human being. Okay, I will tell you an example. This disease is called Kaisanu forest disease. It's called monkey fever wrongly. It's first reported in 1954 in a small village of Kaisanu in Shimoga district of Karnataka. Okay, it happened after a massive felling of a forest land, and they found monkeys started dying. And later, the humans infected, more than large population of humans were infected and died. So then after that, there was small incidents near Shimoga. Then 2014, we have a huge incidence in our landscape in Kerala, in Wayanad. So what we did, there was a court case actually. They said there is a huge problem with the monkeys in cities in Wayanad district. And so court ordered, okay, take them all, release back into the wild. Around 3,000 monkeys were caught and released into the wild. All of them came back with the disease, Kaisanu forest disease. 150 people were infected and 12 people died. And massive vaccination campaign started. Now this is endemic in Wayanad. Okay, these are wrong management practices to mitigate a conflict. Right? So what I said, most of these transmissions from human to wildlife and wildlife to human is because of the huge interaction, the conflict between humans and wildlife. So in the case of SARS or in the case of Nipah, you can view it as a conflict, human-wildlife conflict. It's another view of seeing things. Okay, coming to that, I told you these are major interactions happening, negative interactions happening both in humans and wildlife due to human-wildlife conflict. So coming to reasons of human-wildlife conflict, it's a real question. People always ask, people say, okay, the population increases, that's why the conflict happening, which may not be true in many cases and most of the cases. It's true in some cases, but not all of the cases. So when you look into the reasons, there are so many reasons. Okay, so to understand that, I will tell you the first point, which is called edge effect. Edge effect is nothing. Edge is the edge between the forest and the human dwelling. Okay, the edge of the forest is usually the most fertile area. There is a lot of sunlight and highly nutritious. There is a lush grass growing. And many species, which called edge species, which prefer to live near to the edges. Okay, so those species are very prone to human-wildlife conflict because the human settlement is nearby, crop is nearby. So they, for example, spotted deer. Okay, somebody in the contrary, they prefer to stay inside the forest. It's not an edge species. Okay, elephant, some elephants are edge species, some of the elephants are edge species. Not all of them are edge species. Tigers. So the question is, we ask, do tigers are edge species? We checked, we collected the fecal sample of the tigers, we examined. We found that most of them they are eating are the core species. They are not edge species, but they come to edge when they are injured. I will explain that to you later. So this is the edge effect. So there are species which are living in the edge. So they tend to go for, they are high access to the human agricultural field, and they become more chance to be conflict animals. So they are an inherent habit of that particular species. So other things are, we call it habitat fragmentation and degradation. So for example, our habitat is fragmented for development. For example, roads, we make dams. So what happens? Our whole landscape will be fragmented in small pieces. So in small pieces, these animals cannot survive. So they need larger landscape. Okay, so they have to move, right? So in that process, conflict happens. It's if you go to it's prominent in some part of our area. For example, Arlamanor, where forest is really fragmented, but it's more pronounced in northeast of Bengal, where you can see large amount of people are killed by elephant herds because of the fragmentation. But again, there is another point called degradation, habitat degradation. The quality of the forest is going down. It's mainly because of agriculture process. For example, in Wayanad, I would say 120 forest area. The Wayanad term itself means wildnad. It's because which is the most of the area are wilds which collected water. So these areas were leased by the British for farming, and these are the real core area where animal has to survive, and which degrades the quality of the landscape habitat of this species. Again, forest fire is another problem. When the forest fire comes multiple times, the real native species goes and alien species try to grow. Okay, the quality of habitat goes and animal cannot live in those areas. Then again, I would say cattle grazing, even a problem. It's a bioconverter of the quality of water into for manure. So these are some of the examples. And again, there is a habitat changes I mentioned. There's a huge habitat changes, which can be natural or anthropogenic. Okay, so on the right, you can see bamboo blooming. Okay, so bamboos are major fodder for elephant. So 5 years back, there was a huge blooming of bamboo. Bamboo are perennial plants because they grow and bloom once and they become destroyed naturally. So there was a huge blooming and all the bamboos in our landscape were gone. Okay, then started the huge level of conflict. But on the left, on the top, you can see a plant, and we call it Senna spectabilis. Okay, an alien plant. Okay, which is just like our Kanikona, right? But it came from South America as an alien plant. As an ornamental plant, it came to our landscape. Now it's spreading like a wildfire. Okay, 30% of our sanctuaries, Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary, is occupied by this thing. It's very toxic. There is no predator for this. No animals can survive on this. No predator for this species. It's a highly copious. Okay, so by spreading, the whole habitat become useless for the wild animals. Okay, so literally these are barren lands. If you can find, you may see green, but literally barren lands. So we try to monitor the wildlife activity that we found no animal is using because it's very toxic plant. So this is happening. This is a human involved. And again, the bottom, you can see plantations, monocultures. You have teak plantations, tea plantations, and eucalyptus plantations inside the forest as a part of, policies at that time. And which again deteriorates the quality of the forest, and it becomes unfit for the natural habit and habitat of the animals, and the habitat becomes useless. Another thing is that actually the agriculture practice in those landscapes where conflict is prevalent. For example, like I'm using Wayanad as a model because it's the most important place where the highest frequency and highest level of human wildlife conflicts exist. So the traditional practices were gone. Okay, traditional, they go for millets and other kind of agriculture practice, but later it shifted to easy cash, getting crops like banana and those kind of things, which attracts more animal towards the plantations. So the change in practice, economic system actually triggered a lot of human wildlife conflict in those areas. Then quite interestingly, and which is something, it's called behavior, the change in behavior. Animals are adapting. Okay, this is an example of this. So when you see a forest, people usually enjoy seeing, oh, what a serene, beautiful thing. In fact, forest is actually, it's a highly dynamic. Okay, when you see a tiger chasing a deer, you can see the same thing when you look at the trees, different canopies fighting for light, resources. Okay, they are fighting. So huge infight is happening. Okay, so that should be the perception when you look into the wild, right? So here, some animals are modifying their behavior. Okay, for example, 30 to 40 years back, we used to have conflict animals. For example, in the case of elephants, I use as a model. 90%, 98% of the conflicts in the elephants happening because of bulls. Okay, bulls tend to do conflict more rather than females or herds. Females are herds. Bulls are separate. Okay, bulls are, they join to the herd during the breeding time only. Otherwise, they're separate. So these single bulls were raiding the crops. Now we are seeing a huge thing. Actually, there is a congregation of bulls. That's a cooperative bull grouping. For example, the left side, you can see 4 huge, massive bull elephants. They're different. They're entirely different. They're adult bulls. They come together. They cooperate for crop raiding. Okay. The right, you can see another elephant. The elephant's name is Manian. It's a wild elephant. Okay. So we radio collared this animal and we monitored almost for 10 years. The data is really interesting. Even though it's lived near to the human settlement, it never plucks a leaf of plantations. Okay, it just lived nearby. You can see the YouTube and all, a lot of funny photo videos and everything. So what I'm saying, there is a huge, tremendous behavioral changes happening. Okay, in fact, you can see the second bull from the left, and which was the lead bull. We collared that animal for almost 6 years. We monitored. Finally, we decided this was the lead bull, and we captured this animal. Okay, we removed this animal, the conflict gone. Okay, it happened in a huge wild area, in the largest wild area in Wayanad. And he was the lead bull we identified because of the collaring and monitoring the herd behavior. Then we removed the animal, then the whole conflict gone. Well, what really interesting was actually we put that animal in a kraal, in the place where we put this captured animal. These other 3 bulls regularly visiting him, and he was feeding them from his food in the kraal. So that kind of behavior is really happening. So there's a change in dynamics in behavior, which aggravates the conflict situations. Next thing actually is reduced human tolerance is a real factor. Here, this is a classical example. It's a conflict animal, and which was killed in Odisha. You can see what is written is, in Bihar, is written as Bin Laden. Okay, so he was poisoned, and somebody wrote on his body as Bin Laden. So this is something happening. When you look into migration of the people towards forest area, the first generation is expecting a 30-40% of crop loss because of the human-wildlife conflict, or the wildlife conflict. But nowadays, the people are not willing to accept. The new generations are willing to accept that. They say the forest is separate from the wild. From the agriculture. So the tolerance level it's really reduced. I can give you an example of this thing. The first, our conflict with the tigers happened in 2012. You know, it prolonged for almost 15 days. And 15 days, the whole national highway were blocked by this rampant killing of this tiger. Finally, I darted this tiger. So it was happening before. Okay, for example, I would say the primitive people of Wayanad, they had a habit of a ritual called Narikutta. Narikutta means killing a tiger or a leopard, which came out and captured their prey their domestic animals, which was a tradition, long back tradition. You can see even the cave inscriptions even. So that was a tradition. And now that same kind of attitude is still followed. And interestingly, I watched the same thing in Serengeti also. There is a habit of lion killing by the Maasais the same way they did previously. So reduced tolerance has an important impact because the human society is going through a situation of, they cannot accept the nature or even themselves even. So that could be a triggering factor. And again, the change in traditional practices. Previously, people were taken of their own field by making machans and all kind of things. Nobody is making machan nowadays. Now it's a responsibility of the forest department to see that animals not entering into the field. The machans are for tourism right now. So the responsibilities and practices are not being followed. And it's been given to or inflicted to, or maybe taken granted to only one party, maybe the forest department. So these are the reasons, some reasons for human wildlife conflict. So let's just go through the mitigation methods, what we are practicing. So the first method is actually conflict mapping. So we have to map this conflict. It's a new practice we have started. Then again, identify proper methods that can mitigate the conflict mapping, and timely and proper implementation of those methods, and give timely and adequate compensation, which I will explain later. So conflict mapping is nothing, because you know the conflict happening in different area in a landscape, but you don't have a picture of it. To do a mitigation methodology or to do and assess the real issue, you need to map it. So you have to do the conflict risk can be assessed through the survey, compensation data can be plotted and can be done modeling. Okay, these are the advantages. It gives a level of intensity of conflict in different area and gives an idea of the pattern of conflict. It will give an idea about efficacy of the current method you're using for mitigation. It gives an idea about an apt mitigation method to be adopted. And simulations can be created by changing various attributes, and thus predictions can be made for future migration. So even you can say this year we have a huge rainfall in the particular area, and you can predict what would happen to a tiger conflict, or what would happen in an elephant conflict in the particular area. So for example, this is an example of conflict mapping. The red zone is actually, this is for tiger in Kanat Tiger Reserve. They did the first mapping, and the red one are the hot zones where the real tiger conflict happening, and the blue are lighter. So once you have this map with you, then you can have a clear picture of what's really happening in your landscape. The white area is a human dwelling, okay, surrounded by the forest, right? So those red area are really hotspots of human tiger conflict, and blue areas are. So looking into that particular area, you can adapt the proper mitigation methods, you can adapt or you can survey, or you can identify the real problem with the human wildlife conflict, and you can try new methods also like that. So this is the one actually we are for the Kerala Forest Department started embracing. And there are conventional methods also. For example, elephants, we use electric fences, we make trenches, and there are other traditional ways of trackers and all. But everything have its own difficulties or problems. For example, electric fences are not suitable in evergreen landscape because they're easy to trip, okay, because there is the plant growth can really destroy the electric fences. And trenches, the trenches are good in arid area or dry area, but not in rainy area like us, because there is a chance of flooded with the water and damaging of the trenches, so elephant can pass. So each conventional methods has its own whatever practices. Now we have rail fences. Elephants are now they are trying. Okay, they are developing their own methods to overcome the rail fences. Okay, we have electric hanging fences. They are learning now how to destroy just pushing one tree on it, and they are evolving. So what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say, they are evolving. So there are alternate methods also. For example, people are trying chili fences. Okay, chili is actually it's irritant to the elephants. So there are huge chili plantations in many parts of Africa to prevent elephant, subsidized by the government, to prevent elephant coming into the human inhabitation as a chili belt. It prevents. And again, chili robes, the people are using chili robes. They mix the chili powder with grease and smear it on a rope and hanging those rope would prevent that. But it's not successful in our area because most of the conflicts happening during the rainy season, because most of our cultivations is happening in rainy seasons. So during the rainy season, it's not feasible. So there are alternate methods also tried because like elephants carrying plants, planting elephants carrying plants across the borders and all. But these all has its own limitations depending on the climatic and seasonal changes. And there are other methods also. For example, this one developed in South Africa. This is called honeybee fences. Okay, honeybee, elephants are really scared of honeybees. So people try honeybee sound to chase them, but with various results. But this one, they tried very successfully hanging honeybee boxes in ropes. So when elephants comes and touches that, the honeybees comes out. So elephants will go back. So it's a scary mechanism. At the same time, they will be profited with the honey also. Okay, it was very successful model in some part of Africa. So we tried the same thing on the right corner. Okay, so we tried, it was successful for elephants, but at the problem, another guy came. Okay, you can guess, bears. So bears started raiding them and people said, okay, elephants are enough, good, bears is not, they're not good enough, right? So other things are early warning system. You can do radio telemetry, you can collar an elephant and you can monitor the problematic elephants and you can warn them. There are early warning systems also. You can say there are new GSM collars which gives alert in your mobile phone saying that the elephant is coming to your area and you can take precautions like that. So there are again, these are some of the totally foolproof mechanisms, but it can help. So what will happen? So I told you, not all elephants are conflicting animals. Okay, very few of them are really conflicting animal in contiguous landscape. In contiguous landscape, I'm saying it contiguous landscape. Where there is a habitat fragmentation happens, when habitat becomes broken down in small pieces, you can find herd is really creating the problem. Just as I said in the examples in Southeast Bengal, herd becomes a bigger problem because the forest is really fragmented. You can find Buxa Tiger Reserve, which is 70 square kilometer, and Jaldapara 40 Tiger Reserve, which is 40 square kilometer, embedded in the human settlements. So this 40 square kilometer, 70 square kilometer is not sufficient for animal to survive. So they have to move across the human habitation, and huge conflict is happening while doing so. And so that's happening. So it depends upon various situations. That's I really want to focus on that. But at the same time, in contiguous landscape, like in Wayanad, where it's a part of Nilgiri Basu Reserve, 13,000 square kilometer area, bulls, single bulls or bull groups, as I told, the behavior changes, adaptations, bull groups are really the problem. So one of them we tried, you heard about the infamous Arikombet case, and this is one we tried in 15 years back. There was a huge mechana, actually was raiding in a small area for almost 5 years. It's a human, particularly human populated area. And finally, we captured this animal by darting and we translocated, we captured, we loaded with the cookies and we loaded in a truck. We traveled almost for 320 kilometers and finally released in a place, fully sedated in a place called Shirwani. Okay, so the next day it came to the human settlement near to the Shirwani. Okay, so actually we are shifting one problem to another. So we don't know about the situation of Arikombet right now. Now it is right in the, but it shows the tendency towards moving towards a human settlement. So we are not sure about this is a foolproof mechanism to mitigate a conflict. And again, the problem of capture of the capture of problem elephants. When you find that elephants is really menacing, and by continuously monitoring, you have to monitor and you have to declare it as a conflict animal, a habituated conflict animal. So it's not a transient conflict animal; it's a habituated one. So you have to collar this animal and monitor for 5-6 years, and you are very sure that it is a huge, really habituated animal. So I can tell you, these animals, habituated conflict animals, are really individual specific. You can see them; they have a huge body. Basically, it's a risk-taking mechanism, I would say. It's a behavior I do. So you have seen human risk-taking behavior. You can see bungee jumpers, motorcycle speed riders and all. So there is a risk factor. Even though there is a risk factor involved, there is a huge additional plus point to it. For example, in the case of elephants, there is a paper recently published in Africa. They found that the age of an elephant to be sired to its baby in a bull is almost 45 years. Okay, it requires 45 years of infight to get a female to breed its offspring, right? So in these cases, they are taking an advantage of a risk in the age of young ages. They go to conflict, so they get a highly proteinaceous or nutritious, tasty food, so they can build the body very quickly and they can attract the mate. So this is a psychology of human-wildlife conflict, the behavior point I mentioned. So once you have to have this establishing as a habituated conflict animal, this is a practice, which is a real controversy right now. The question is, the ethic of this thing is really in a debate. And again, the large carnivore conflict. So large carnivore conflict is really increasing. Okay, I told you my first conflict is in 2012. Since then, I captured 36 tigers by tranquilization alone. More than 60, 70 animals we captured and released back. And some of them are really injured. Okay, so we actually profiled the conflicts of tigers, and we found that 80% of the tiger conflict is because of injury. There's a huge infight happening inside the forest for resources. You know, tigers are territorial animals. When one animal is old, is not capable enough to come, the other will attack. Okay, so it sustains large injuries, which make him not fit to do any kind of habit like predation or chasing a prey or something like that. So they come to human settlement and capture the cattle or domestic animal. Okay. Other one are some animals, young animals, and it's a part of our economic system too, which I will explain. See, when a tiger comes born, which should take 2 years to become, get weaned, separated from the mother. Mother usually kick out after 2 years. And 70% of them will be killed by adult tigers in that. So they will always searching for home ranges, right? During that process, like in Wayanad, which is filled with tigers almost, what they will do, they will search and looking for fresh a home range. By looking into Wayanad, you can see that there are lots of plantations getting abandoned because of the economic reasons. The price of the coffee is less, and rubber plantations are not economical. So most of the people, they cannot manage or maintain a plantation, and they become slowly as a forest. So these young animals goes into that and establish their own territory. So which is mostly near to the human villages, and they have started doing cattle lifting. Okay, which is another triggering factor. So there are so many triggering factors for larger carnivore. Disease is another example. Canine December virus is actually provocating in many cases of tigers coming out in the human settlements. Okay, so leopards again. Interestingly, we rescued more than 100 leopards in different human settlement area, in cities also. Most of them are in cities. The people used to ask why they are coming to cities like Calicut or in Vadagara or most of the cities. They will go, they found them, then we have to guard them. Sometimes they fell in a well and we have to rescue them. And we collar them and release into the wild again. And surprisingly, it's very successful. Translocation is very successful in leopard. They will not come back. Okay. Then darting is a very risky business. So so this whole process really is a risk-taking element by the managing this process by our team. Okay. Then another issue is a monkey menace, which is increasing tremendously in our area. I had seen records. There are many troops of bonnet macaques inside the forest. Now many of them left. They come to human habitat and they adapted to human habitat because there are lots of there is no predator for them and lots of easy food for them. There are a lot of begging animals. They establish their own territory in human area in many cities. So it's a biggest problem and need to be addressed. So one is the birth control program that model is tried in Shimla, but it not been successful. So To sum up, and these are the challenges in human-wildlife conflict. So there are lots of different stakeholders in it, and to identify them, the real stakeholders involved, is need to be done. And the dilemma in management of human-wildlife conflict. It's a real dilemma. How we can manage. There are questions why we should do this is also a question by so many people around. So there is a huge dilemma existing. By looking into the literatures in human-wildlife conflict, I could find only a single PhD in human-elephant conflict, and a couple of papers are only available. Literally, I would say there is no research is happening in this problem, and there is no data is being gathered to analyze the real situation. So there is a lack of data, and research is the biggest problem. So first, we have to identify the stakeholders, and really we have to have a focus on what we have to do and how we have to do. And by studying the real issues, by making conflict mapping and research methodologies and how it's coming out, and raise the data and come to the hypothesis and prove the hypothesis and adopt a mechanism. Right. Oops, something happening wrong. Okay. So these are the 5 styles of conflict management. You can assertive, or you can cooperative. By looking at that, you can have avoiding and or competing, or maybe collaborating or accommodating. This depends upon the people mindset and the real issues and the landscape. And there is in between them is a compromising. So where we have to, when we sociologically, when you analyze, you have to identify where your problem exists. Okay, so that style of sociological approach also needed to mitigate. So this is a human-elephant conflict management dilemma, for example. So different conflict management styles may be used to mitigate the situation. And knowing yourself and fully understanding each situation will help you to understand the conflict management style need to be followed, and try a scenario-based approach to test the effectiveness of the methodology, different approaches to specific situations. So these are main dilemmas we find in human-elephant conflict. So basically, I would like to say, human-elephant conflict is not a single issue. Okay, it varies with the species, it varies with the landscape, it varies with the ecology, varies with the reasons. Okay, and it got a political facet, it got a sociological issue, it got a conservation value, it's got a conservation issue, and again the well-being of the human beings and the wildlife. Okay, so it's a really multifaceted issue. Just like I would say, most of our management style is just like the old proverb, seeing, 5 blinds went to see an elephant. The first blind who touched the trunk, he said, oh, just like a big rope, or who touched the feet, they said, oh, it's an elephant is a pillar. And who touched the tails, oh, elephant is a broom, like that. So we should have a total understanding of the picture. So we need, and again, understanding the stakeholders also. It's not a duty of the forest department alone, which is really perceived, it's a social problem. Okay, for example, I can sum up with this. Forest gives, why we need forests? That's the question. Okay, we need forests for our survival. Okay, I can tell a small story about that. In 2012, when we have the first tiger conflict, it's long for a long time. When I'm coming to Sultanbette, I found small kids actually from LKG, lower kindergarten school, LKG school. They were parading in the street with the banners and boards saying that kill the tiger, save us from the forest, right? So which was really a shocking scene for me. So I was, so after this, everything happened, everything finished, I talked to my manager, I told, see, we have a nature camp system. So schools, we invite schools, they can spend 1 week with us in our campus. So there'll be food supplied and it will take it to the forest, there'll be classes and everything. Usually this is given to elite schools. And I said, okay, we have to start this in the borders of the schools, in the borders of our sanctuary. So first day I invited these kids from which I saw, which were parading in the street. So I was talking about the conservation and everything. Then one small girl asked me, sir, why we need tigers in the forest? We have tigers in the zoo. Why we need tigers in the forest? So pin drop silence, a small girl. So I reverted the same question to teachers and asked, so why we need tigers? Then one teacher said, it's tigers are apex species. We need food chain, apex species. Is it true? No. In our habitat system, human environment, there is no apex species. We eat our rice from the field and fishes from maybe from the sea or from the river, then or chicken from farm. So where is the role of tiger? There is no role of tiger in our situation. So it's simple. I said, okay, let's kill all the tigers. Then what will happen? They said, okay, herbivores increase. Okay, we kill the herbivores. Okay, what will happen? The forest will be dead. As I told, there's an intense competition happening inside the forest in between plants. The forest will crash. Okay, we need forest for water. We are getting water from the forest because they store water during the rainy season and they percolate and become streams and rivulets and become rivers. And it gives us power, hydroelectric power. Somebody sitting in city, when turning on the light, or your air condition, these are from the forest. Okay, these are the ecosystem services are from the forest. But look at who is really suffering from these services. It's actually people who is living around the forest, who are facing the human-wildlife conflict. Okay, and this is the political version of it. So saying this, I would say this is a real socio-political, ecological scenario, and need to identify the stakeholders and need to study the situation. And each scenario based, it's different from different landscape and different from the problem of elephants in Wayanad may not be the same in some other RLM or some other area. So need to be studied. It should be integrated with that ecology and comes up with the solutions. And again, as I told, it's a arms race between the human and the wildlife is happening. They're learning. Okay, so it is a continuous, it will be a continuous process. We develop something, they will find out methods against it. Okay, so thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable words. Now, it is time for the feedback session. Audience may use the raise hand button provided in the platform to ask their queries.
Could I add few words before the query?
Yeah,
Sir,
sure, sir.
Please, sir.
Doctor, we have a very important personality with us. A person who is, let me, before you could ask questions, let me add a few words about Dr. Arun Spekaria. I had the very rare fortune of working closely with Dr. Arun Spekaria in many wildlife issues, especially which have come up in the High Court. I was given so much of knowledge, and I can say from my interaction with Dr. Arun Spekaria, I've never seen such a, I've seen a person with so much of knowledge in wildlife, in-depth knowledge. And now Arun Spekaria sir is now very famous because of the Haricomben case also. Even before that, he is very famous. And after the Haricomben case, he was live on all the channels. Seeing all of us were seeing him 24/7 for at least one day. So even during that period, I know, because I know from my experience after from all the forest divisions, I know he's a person, because we have a lot of scientists, great persons who have produced a lot of work, but all are not field experts. Many would do research in their homes, in the libraries, but actually going to the field and always being in the field and putting out results is something different. So I know that Dr. Arun Spekaria has come to this not because of anything else, but only because of passion, only because of his passion for forest and wildlife. Both Dr. Arun Spekaria and his brother, I'm told, I have heard of several stories that both of them, even during their student days, school days, college days, they were always in the forest, in the wildlife. I heard very strange stories about his brother, who is also such a great, great activist, bringing in and collecting so many specimens and all. I could not disclose now. Very interesting stories. Such a passionate man who is not just a veterinarian, but who has come to this field because of the greatest interest for this. So, sir, it's a real honor that it's a great privilege that we have you here. And of course, sir, I know the issues which you have also had to face when you have to, because you have to balance both sides. Because the issue animals welfare and also the issue of the people. And of course, two issues you could also tell us here is regarding PM2 and PT7. These two conflict animals which are now being housed in captivity, where you had to do it. But you have told me that after PM PT7, the conflict issue in that area is over, and there's no such as such other issues that have been there. Then, sir, you said about one thing about the lead elephant. Could you just explain more that name of the lead elephant which was removed in the wild, and during which period it was done, and all these things you could also explain once more, because I did not hear that. The name of the lead elephant which you had.
Thank you very much, sir. So, Nairaj sir, sir, I adore him like anything. When you're having any legal doubts and everything, sir is our source. And as I told, I'm always privileged with him. Then, sir, what I said is actually, there is a behavior development is also happening. Okay, so we have a feeling that the nature is so status quo ante, so it just stays like that, like a portrait. But no, they're also adapting, they're also evolving. So 30 years back, we could see only single bulls conflicting, coming into the human settlement. Now, the pattern is changed. Okay, for example, in the case of PT7, there were 5 elephants were conflicting, 5 of them. Okay, PT1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, no, 7 elephants, and PT7 was the last one. So 7 elephants were conflict for almost 6 years. Okay, bulls, large bulls. Okay, it's not small bulls. We can find the small bull grouping in a younger ages, but no large bull. It's a cooperative behavior. So when the large bulls forms, the risk for them is less. Imagine in a field, when a single bull comes, all the farmers coming, they're using arrows, crackers, bombs, everything, gunshots. You know, it will be centered. If that risk is shared by 2-3 animals, imagine 2-3 animals coming a raid in a single area, the people will be confused. So there will be more advantages. This is a behavior modification. Okay, the behavior is evolving. Okay, this is happening. Okay, so we observed the case first thing in Kallur, which is the largest wild in Wayanad, near to Sultan Bathery, near to Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary. 4 animals were continuously raiding that area for almost 6 years. Okay, they could not plant anything there. Okay, so we observed these animals. We observed this behavior. I showed the photograph, the 4 of them. Then we identified a lead bull. It was just like a very systematic manner. At every 6:30, they congregate together in a point. Then midnight, around 12 o'clock, they goes in. At 5:30, they goes back. Okay, and 4 of them will disperse. And we found that there is a leader for this. Okay, that is Kallur Kambat, huge bull. Okay, so we collared him and we monitored because it's a satellite collar. So we will get. Sir, it's in 2014, sir. I did the collaring in 2012. So then 2014, 2014 again we collared. Then 2017 we captured this animal. Okay, after 5 years of monitoring, we identified he was a lead bull. We captured this animal, tranquilized, and put it in a crawl. So what happened? Next night, the 3 other bulls came into the camp, elephant camp. And he was feeding them from, whatever we are giving to them, he was feeding them from his crawl. So this kind of bonding they have. Okay, so my star's main job to chase the other three away. So literally that conflict stopped into that area because identifying the lead bull. There's a lead bull in cooperating bull situation. There would be a lead bull. Identified the lead bull. So the same thing happened in the PT7 also. PT7 was a lead bull. Okay, he was doing the conflict. He was associating with other bulls. They're coming to, the rest of them are not habituated, but he's the lead bull. He's ready to take risk and he's organizing others to come into the field situation. By doing so, the risk has been shared and all of them are benefited, mutually benefited. Okay, by doing the conflict. So this is the one we observed actually. This is happening frequently. Nowadays, it's a common thing happening around in the conflicts. Nowadays, single bull issues are very less. So bulls forms congregations, they form groups. Okay, they're not genetically related, they're not brothers, they form group for the convenience and they share the risk and conflicts. It's a very tricky situation. So again, the PT7 issue is like that. They have a huge amount of data for 5 years. They were tracking this animal. So once we removed that animal, we were very sure it was a lead bull. We removed that animal, the conflict is over in Palakkad. There can be random, but not like an organized conflict. So that's why we need to study the conflict situation really and make a practice. I'm not for the capturing of any animals, but if it is a habituated conflict animals, I told you, I'm not seen a habituated animal crossing at age of 40. Most of them would be killed by poisoning, electrocution, arrow, or some other way, anthropogenic way. Okay, they will not cross 40 because they are facing huge risk.
You say that after the capture of PT7, what is the conflict situation there?
It's reduced, considerably reduced. Considerably reduced.
High charged issue that people high charged issue of people, it has gone, seems, right?
Yeah. By the Grama Panchayat itself, the feedback is that the conflict is over. From the forest department, the conflict is over. But there are random issues because it's almost a corridor. So there can be elephant movement, definitely for sure, but not habituated conflict situation. I said habituated conflict situation.
What about the PM's PM2?
PM2 was a real habituated situation. That area, Pandalur area, is a tea estate. Okay, there is no natural feeding thing, but it's a huge corridor and a large number of animals are living. There's a lot of animals being killed by poisoning and everything. And this guy is really specialized in destroying. More than 160 houses were destroyed. And he was collared and monitored by the Tamil Nadu Forest Department for 3 years. And he was raiding rice, like this I recommend. Typically raiding rice. Okay. And finally they captured and they released that animal near to the Karnataka area. Ultimately it came to the Sultan Bathery town. And we tried to chase him, but he was keep on coming, and because it's really habituated to human beings, very clearly human being. It's not scared of human beings at all. When it comes to human beings, he will attack you, and he will come to human settlement. He was habituated to human settlement. That's why more than 160 houses were destroyed, and he made the habit of raiding rice. Okay. Finally, we didn't have a choice. Yeah.
What about this PM7? PM2 was also, it was not neither a male, it was a male.
It's a Makana. It's a Makana.
Does it make any difference?
Makana. That's a quite, yeah. In the conflict situation, yes, sir. In our conflicts data, 90% of conflict is because of bulls. Okay, there are two types of bulls, which is Tusker with a huge tusk and Makana. Makana is a tuskless male. It got other attributes also. It can build their body huge. They have a huge front end structure, and the body structure would be really huge. And interestingly, the percent of Makana in an elephant population would be almost around 3 to 4%, or maybe up to 8%. Okay, but the 50% of conflicts created by the Makana. This 8% bull population, Makana comes around 8%, which causes the real 50% of conflict in the real situation. Am I getting clear, sir? Makana is a risk-taking animal. huge risk
More,
taking.
more mischievous than the other bull.
Yes, yes, yes. By
More
behavior
mischievous
also,
and risk
physiology.
behavior is more
Yeah,
risk-taking animal than the
Yeah,
other bull.
and very dangerous animal too. They attack like rat. They attack like anything. And look into the must period also. So, see, in a good tusker, the must period, the must period, rut period, usually lasts for 2 months or maybe 3 months. Makana, in the case of Makana, go for 6-7 months continuously. It's a high testosterone. It keeps in high testosterone level because just to fight with the bulls. Okay. So interestingly, we were tracking this Makana gene trait, and we found that there was a huge Makana increase happened in the early 20th century because there was a huge poaching of bulls for ivory happen. So there is a trait developed because there was a selective culling of bulls. So the tussless trait is increased. Now what we are seeing, because of conservation, we have good bulls right now, and we found a lot of Makanas being gored, killed by the bulls. Every year I'm getting 6-7 goring by bulls. So Makana are pushed towards the human settlements.
One more issue. Now, what is the presence? Arikomban is something which always, after the court intervention, it has become a superstar, as you know. So, what presently it is it has now adjusted, as it adjusted to natural feeding, or as is habituated way of having snacks or raiding this has gone, or how you evaluate the present situation of Arikomban in
Sir, so
its present habitat.
we did extensive survey on that particular landscape
Yes,
before
in the
capture.
affidavit, you hope in the affidavit we have said there's always a 20% chance it can convert to 20 to 20% chance. 80% it could be habituated, but 20% chance we have always said that the forest department also said 20%. 20% chance is there where we could 20% chance. Could you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can, sir. Please, sir.
20% chance. 20% chance where it could be rehabilitated in the wild, or
yes, sir. Sir,
restored to natural breeding. It comes in that 20% which we stated in the affidavit, or
sir, I can explain that, sir. Actually, we started. Forest Department started the RRT in Muna. They were tracking animal since 2015. Okay. Then 2017 we tried to collar this animal. Okay. Then there was extensive study happened in what's really happening. So interestingly, we found that habituated conflict animals, we can say if it's because of a behavior, the risk-taking behavior, those animals will not compromise for anything. I would say 90% they will come out to human being. Okay, the Makana case I mentioned, and which became a behavior. So they will come out. Definitely they will come out. Okay, but in this case, when we studied the Arikomban, we found that the landscape is really poor. Okay, the habitat quality is very much. There is coffee plantation, and there is bamboo. Cardamom plantation, and there is no. And other forest remains is just like Shola forest. Shola forest is not fit for elephants. Shola cannot support elephants at all. Very few animals. Elephants need either semi-evergreen or evergreen forest habitat, and which were converted into huge tea plantations by British, and which this thing is a real habitat area. And so it was living, that whole population, that whole population is living in a poor habitat situation. So if it is, that's why the 20% what we said, if it is a chance for getting a new habitat, which is really congenial, so there is a higher chance for it to adapt. So that's why we selected that area. And there's a lot of bamboo, a lot of water, a lot of fodder, and so ideal habitat for elephants identified and translocated. So this was a real issue. So whether it's due to habitat problem or the behavior problem is not sure. Mainly its habitat is really poor. It's highly degraded. That landscape habitat is gone. And besides, there was that area being allocated to tribal people, and which increased the situation. Am I clear, sir?
Sanjay, how is it, sir? Are you combining? Have you registered in the
Uh,
habitat?
It's
Have you
I'm
got
I'm
this
not
right?
I-
I am
I'm I'm
or
not.
not
I
following.
did my job. I did my job. Finished.
Okay,
And
sir.
Tamil Nadu people are
Thank you,
monitoring
sir.
that.
Thank you, sir.
So
Thank you, sir.
thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us. Now we are heading into the feedback section. Audience may use the raise hand button provided in the platform to ask their queries.
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, sir, please.
Oh, it's overlapping.
Those who have raised their hands, you may switch on your videos.
Yeah, shall I ask one small query, sir?
Please, please, please. You're not audible.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Thank you, doctor. So, anyways, for your informative presentation on the complex issue of human wildlife conflict. So, from my curiosity, I have a question to you. Actually, in a worldwide survey, who has been more affected in this conflict, humans or animals?
Um, it's not assessing on what basis. Okay, you cannot compare economic basis. Okay, right? So they don't have money, so you cannot compare what the property damage towards animal life. There is no comparison. Okay, so economically you can't do that. Okay, you can do that in human beings. You can do that, but you can't count because these animals are endangered and they're highly precious animal, and there is no value. That's beyond value. So you cannot do. Then then looking into the so as I told, I mean infliction of the human wildlife conflict, it's not properly being documented, and plus it varies with situation to situation. Okay, so in some area it's humans are really affected, and some area, you know, the people do hunting because of the proximity towards forests, and more electrocution cases happening. Okay, so it depends upon the habitat. You cannot make a single step. As I told, this varies with the place to place. Okay, so one method we use is like a financial level of this thing, which is not applicable to for comparison. Am I?
Yes, but is there any specific survey uh, are we keeping right now? Who has been affected more, humans, whether humans or animals? Like, is there any survey? Do we see?
Yeah. That's we are starting that actually. That's why I called conflict mapping. Okay, which included all the data, what's happening. Okay, in human area and also in the wild. Okay, that will give you the real picture. So which is it's as I told, there is no research going to happen, and there is very limited data with us. No, we have to pool the data right now, and that's initiative is being started, and we are doing that.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Doctor. So another thing I want to get a clarification, small clarification from you. If you can elaborate on the role of ecosystem ecosystem disruption. Okay, how it is increased the human wildlife conflict.
Of course, I told you the problem with the fragmentation in Northeast Bengal and in some part of our landscape also. If it is fragmented, see, it is called carrying capacity. Every animal need the space and requirement, okay, and resources. Okay, so if a contiguous landscape is fragmented into small pieces, imagine a dam being constructed and the whole landscape become two, a highway being constructed and become two. Okay, a railway line can divide into two small habitat. So what effectively happening is the resources are divided. Okay, so the population cannot survive in that without the connectivity. That's why we are making corridors for elephants. Okay, so when the habitat become fragmented, the survival of those area, those landscape become unsuitable for the animal, and the population become extinct. Will become extinct. Okay, so that's why we need connectivity in between them. So that's we need to assess the carrying capacity, how much this landscape can carry tigers or elephant. What are the resources there? Okay, so we need both spatial and temporal data on the resources as well as requirements.
Right. Okay. You mentioned various mitigation strategies.
Yeah.
Right. Are there specific ecological considerations that we should guide the implementation of these strategies to secure or to ensure they are both effective and sustainable for our upcoming generation?
I can give you an example for that. So there was a proposal to make walls, which are very good barriers to separate wild from human habitation, making concrete granite walls. And it has been tried also. It had been tried also in some area. Okay. The question number one, do we have the resource to separate the forest with the human landscape with concrete walls all across Kerala? We need a whole, I think, Western Ghat to be blown for the granite. And again, what is the survival of the forest if you're separating? What is survival of a human being if you're separating if you're separating themselves? So where would be rivers coming out? Where would be streams coming out? What is the species migration happening? Frogs, amphibians, snakes, you know? It is literally, you cannot isolate a habitat, a small block, like in a zoo, and say survive, which is totally impossible. Okay, so you got a biological and other practical, pragmatic point of view as well. I hope I made it clear.
Due to time constraints, we are winding up this. We're winding up the feedback session. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. With that, I would like to invite Shaktiprabha M. Sa, Assistant Professor, Kerala Law Academy, for the word of thanks. Sa, please.
Thank you, Gokul. Most respected Dr. Arun Zakaria Sir, Chief Forest Veterinary Officer, Department of Forest and Wildlife, Government of Kerala. Advocate Nagaraj Narayan Sir, Director, Kerala Law Academy. Professor Anil Kumar K. Sir, Director, Students and Faculty Affairs, KLA. Professor Harindran K. Sir, Principal, KLA. Professor G. Anil Kumar Sir, Vice Principal, KLA. Other distinguished invitees, my colleagues, and dear students. I consider this as a great privilege to present the vote of thanks in the third session of Wildlife Week celebrations, which is being conducted by Kerala Law Academy in association with KLA Forestry Club and IQAC to promote the conservation and protection of animal life. I would like to first extend my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. late N. Narayan Nair sir, founder, Kerala Law Academy, who always remains as an inspiration for us in conducting these events. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Arun Sakaria sir, Chief Forest Veterinary Officer, Department of Forest and Wildlife, Government of Kerala. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us on the topic human-wildlife conflict in an ecological perspective. On behalf of Kerala Law Academy Law College and my own behalf, I extend my deepest gratitude to you, sir.
Thank you.
With most respect, I would like to extend my gratitude to Advocate Nagaraj Narayan sir, Director, Kerala Law Academy Law College, and member Bar Council of Kerala. He always supported us in every activity of this college and has encouraged us to do our best. We are indebted to you, sir, for being a pillar of strength and for giving us courage. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I take this opportunity to thank Professor K. Anilkumar sir, Director, Administration, Students and Faculty Affairs, Kerala Law Academy Law College. He's a brilliant academician with years of experience in the field of legal education. I express my genuine vote of thanks to you, sir, for being a pillar of support for us. Professor Harindran K. sir, our principal, is always a source of inspiration to all the academic activities in this college. He always extends his support and guidance to all the competitions, conferences, international seminars, and workshops organized by this college. On behalf of Kerala Law Academy and my own behalf, I propose a sincere thanks to you, Harindran sir, from the bottom of my heart. I also take this opportunity to express my immense gratitude to Professor G. Anilkumar sir, Vice Principal KLA, Professor Dr. Ajita Narayan ma'am, Senior Faculty KLA, for this immense support throughout the event. We have also been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of dedicated organizing faculty members, which includes Advocate Kasturi Nagaraj ma'am, Assistant Professor Kerala Law Academy, and Sri N.K. Shashidharan sir, Assistant Professor Kerala Law Academy. I sincerely thank them for their august presence in this session. I'm deeply privileged to thank Srimati Adira Chandran R. Madam, Assistant Professor Kerala Law Academy, also one of the faculty conveners of this event, who delivered the welcome address of this event. Heartfelt thanks to you, ma'am. I also express my immense gratitude to our IT team, office staff, technical administrative staff, student conveners, anchoring team, and our student moderators for today. That is Bhavani Bijunayar and Google Krishna, for their tireless efforts for the success of this event. Last but not the least, I would like to extend my gratitude to all the students and other attendees for your kind cooperation and patience throughout the session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir, for the heartfelt vote of thanks. As we come to the end of this remarkable session, it is essential to express our heartfelt gratitude to all those who made this session remarkable. I use this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude towards Advocate Nagaraj Narayan sir, Director, Kerala Law Academy, Professor Anilkumar K. sir, Director, Administration, Students and Faculty Affairs, Kerala Law Academy, Professor Harindran K. sir, Principal, Kerala Law Academy, Professor Anil Kumar G. sir, Vice Principal, Kerala Law Academy, Advocate Kasturi Nagaraj ma'am, Assistant Professor, Kerala Law Academy, and N.K. Shashidharan sir, Assistant Professor, Kerala Law Academy, for providing us with such a wonderful platform. I would also like to thank our faculty conveners for their unending support. I sincerely thank our student conveners for their tireless effort for the success of this event. I would also like to thank our IT department who have contributed their time and efforts for the smooth functioning of this event. Last but not the least, I also extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you for your kind cooperation and patience. With that, we have come to the end of the session. Once again, thanking you all, this is Google Krishna and Bhavani Biju signing off.